G'day, it's Stevic from 12 Ninja here. And look, if you like American football, you should check out Saints Happy Hour podcast. I personally know fuck all about American football, other than it's a bunch of massive blokes wearing spandex, shoulder pads and helmets, running around with throwing a football. In Australia, you don't throw footballs. You punch it or you kick it. And there's no protection. They're all naked. And there's sharks and crocodiles fired out of cannons onto the field, and we all stand around and drink blood watching it. But if American football's your thing, you know what to do. Saints Happy Hour podcast. Stick it in your ear hole.
Welcome to another edition of Saints Happy Hour podcast. Hope you are having a fantastic Memorial Day weekend. We have a great show for you tonight. We're going to talk salary cap increase, how it affects the Saints. We're going to talk about, is June 1st, in the month of June, is it going to be more and bigger and more exciting than usual? We're going to talk about Saints players we irrationally hate, even though sometimes they don't deserve it. And we're going to talk about bad decisions you've made because of an emotion or just a bad decision that you immediately regretted as soon as you did it. Thanks for joining us. Listen, if you see the boxes and you're on YouTube, you realized we have a special guest tonight. Andrew is drunk in the wilderness in Austin, Texas, and Dave is doing one of his bougie vacations. I don't know, whatever the Dave does. He goes to the Catskills in New York. I don't know, whatever. So I had to call my friend Scott because Kevin, he's here, thank God. But Kevin, because of breaking news in St. Louis, Kevin could have to eject at any minute. So I was like, I can't do the show with just me and Thomas. Thomas just insulting me back in Poland. I need another guy. So Scott was nice enough to hop on with us at last minute. Scott, thanks for joining us. I appreciate it.
I'm part of the big show now, so I feel like I'm officially in like the somewhat inner circle. And let's be honest, I think everybody has trouble listening to Dave. So,
do you think, Kevin? Do you think that Dave might actually watch The Godfather on his vacation between stuffing his face with desserts and sugar?
No, he's going to be too busy going out to the numerous eateries and demanding the dessert menu, and asking, did you properly reduce this sauce or whatever the hell that it is that foodies like him ask.
Man, the thing is with Dave, his vacations are. He's probably, did the Islanders get eliminated? I think they might have. So he can't watch the Islanders.
I don't think so.
Here's the thing too. We'll talk to Andrew next week. Andrew, I was talking to him live while he had his first Buc-ee's experience. And him and his wife were like, this cannot be real Buc-ee's. I'm like, Andrew, it is. Enjoy it, my friend, as he drove to Austin. But as we get back on track into Saints news, Kevin, the Saints got good news with the salary cap. It's going to go up to like $208 million in cap space for next year, supposedly, and it can't go any higher because they have something where they have to pay back the players' pensions and all that. Cap space will be better. So my first question to you is, how reckless is Mickey Loomis going to get knowing he has this extra cap space? How reckless do you think he will get handing out extensions to players and or doing moves in season, i.e. trying to use other teams' cap space to sign Jadeveon Clowney? How reckless is Mickey Loomis going to be with the extra like $20 million in cap space for 2022?
Solve your problems with aggression.
So my first response is how much. Well, obviously you said it. He's getting $20 million, but
it's 15% higher than this year.
Okay, but how close was he going to be up against it next year and the following year with potentially escalating salaries and such?
with the $208 million cap, Mickey Loomis will have about $600,000 in space. The Saints have $207 million committed to 2022 with 39 players under contract.
Now, look, what you said, $200,000 or something like that. So I'm sure Loomis can, renegotiate, work the Loomis math and stuff, and make a couple of things happen. I just kind of enjoy going for the ride on Twitter whenever he does something, so I can just see everybody like react and just be euphoric about anything that Mickey Loomis does. I guess I just like being, well, not like, but I feel like I'm kind of the wet blanket on this. Like, I just look at it like, all right, good. We can afford to keep what we have, and that's fine. We just got to be really careful about how we spend. We can't go out and act crazy, but I know that's not the fun response that you're looking for. So, yeah.
God, give me the fun response I'm looking for. I was just thinking with the extra cap space, it could mean potentially, if things fall right during the year, trade deadline is what, week 6? Knowing they're going to have extra cap space, do you think it could make them more aggressive at the deadline during the year? Because they got to do the extensions anyway with Ramczyk or Lattimore or whoever, right? So that the cap space doesn't necessarily affect that. Or maybe it does. What's your biggest takeaway from the good news that we got via the cap?
Yeah, he'll be reckless. It'll be like Ralph at the casino. If he realizes, oh, I have an extra credit line, I can go back to the ATM again. Especially if they're like 4-2, 5-1 or something, and you're coming up against the deadline. Even if they're 3-3, like he'll convince himself, we can make a run here. Like even though they probably can't, he'll be reckless. Now, if they get off to a shitty start and things are really bad, then maybe he actually does the responsible thing, which wouldn't be bad, like Kevin suggests. Like you got a little extra than you thought. Let's sign these guys to extensions. But once they do that, you sign those guys to extensions, that frees up a little space. Like he's never going to think 2, 3, 4 years down the road. He thinks he can hit the roulette table that night, and he's going to keep going back to it until finally, they cut him off or they throw him out. So I definitely see him at some point. I mean, reckless. I don't know that he's going to do like 7 or 8, different crazy things, but I definitely think during the close to the deadline, especially if they're like 4-2 or 5-1, he'll probably make a move, trade for a corner. They got the compensatory picks next year, so they've got a little bit of ammo. I see him probably making 1 or 2 decisions that, Saints Twitter will go bananas over one way or the other.
Kevin, is your nightmare scenario with the Saints is like they trade like a second next year and they nuke future cap to get like some rando corner that may or may not help them? Is that what's your nightmare scenario? Because I enjoy.
No, I mean that sounds pretty close, man. I mean, like once we get past the draft, I have my momentary sigh of relief that, okay, we're not trading any, there's no more risk of trading possible future picks now that the draft is behind us. Despite the fact that, yeah, he can trade draft picks at any moment, I kind of just tell myself not that I don't have to worry about that anymore. So yeah, him trading a future pick to get some middle of the road secondary player that ultimately does little or no good would, yeah, that would really set me off, Ralph. You would have weeks you would have weeks of me pulling my hair out. I'd look like Dave by the end of it.
Scott, what's the most, I wouldn't want to say controversial move, but what's the move that they could do in the summer that would make Saints Twitter lose their freaking minds? Like, what could they do before week 1, cap-wise, contract-wise with a player, where we would be like, this is insane? And it would be the thing where you call me and you're like, hey, you got to come on we got to come on 3-1.
Right.
Lafayette, you got to get on my radio show because this is crazy.
Well, I think for one, they can bring back Adrian Peterson, right, Kevin? He hasn't retired. I'm kidding.
I'm glad you remember those jokes. I'm glad you remember that era.
That's the worst joke
you are joking. You aren't joking, but I actually side with you on that. A good Kevin rant's always I don't know. I enjoy them. What could they do? I mean, going like to make him go crazy, like like the Saints Twitter did with Andrus Peat last year. I mean, is there a move that they could make? I think if you go out and like any corner they sign, I think you're going to have regret, and then this is the ticket to the Super Bowl. Like it's going to be double-sided. But everybody focuses on Richard Sherman. I think like the Josh Norman backstory of like the fact that they tried to trade so much for him to begin with. If there was like any kind of slight overpay for someone that hadn't even been signed yet, or who could you give an extension to on the roster right now that would just have people just get really pissed off? I mean, if they sign Marcus Davenport to an extension this summer because they're convinced he's the guy, I think Saints Twitter would probably lose their mind.
If they signed Jameis to an extension before he plays, and it was like a 4-year, $100 million extension, but it was like sort of Saints friendly, but Jameis got a good bit of money up front, people would lose their minds. Like I really believe. Like
people lost their mind but they gave Taysom Hill fake money, and people still lose their mind every day online.
Which would be
Taysom Hill fake money is Mickey Loomis's. That's his gift to us this offseason.
So.
Kevin, people tweet me randomly once a week. It'll be somebody, and they'll be like, "Oh, the Saints gave Taysom Hill $140 million. How's that working out?" Like that is the gift that keeps on giving. Florio pumps it. ESPN pumps it. It is amazing. I feel like because he couldn't do any moves, the $140 million he gave Taysom, like that's Mickey Loomis's gift to us this offseason.
So what would be crazier if they did something with Jameis before the season started, or if they waited maybe like 5 games in?
That's right.
Saints are 3-2. Jameis, he's thrown like 6 touchdowns, 5 picks. Like
or like if his stat line is like that, but their record's a little better. Yeah, I like the Bills did that, or was it the Titans? One of them did it with Fitzpatrick. I think it was the Bills. Like they were 4-0. He was playing great, and they gave him a giant extension, like way too early into the season. Yeah. And of course, Fitzmagic, like it happened. Suddenly there were a lot of picks. They weren't in the playoffs. He was exactly what he always was. And that was buyer's regret big time. Yeah, you signed Jameis to an extension during the season because things get off to a decent start. I think that would be great content. I know that much.
It would be great. It would be amazing. But it would also we'd lose our mind. Like even if it's like friendly to the Saints, Kevin, I just think there is a segment of people. There's a segment of the Saints fan base. They I hate to say that they want Jameis to fail, but they don't want Jameis long term. And like there's nothing short of a Super Bowl that he can give them where they will believe in him. So there's a big segment of Saints fans that like if the Saints make a commitment to Jameis quick, and it's like a quick I love you, let's get married right now before the end of the season, people will be hot. So here's another thing that's really interesting to me. As we, Scott, you mentioned about Richard Sherman, maybe Josh Norman, what they'll do with the cap, sign a corner. But is June 1st, it's Tuesday, the Julio Jones rumors are really heating up, right? Russell Wilson wasn't at Seattle's off-season workouts and stuff. Aaron Rodgers still really, really wants to go and host Jeopardy and quit the Packers. We know that. But is this all going to be just talk and June not really going to be that interesting, or is it going to be the most interesting June we've ever had in free agency?
One of them's got to happen. Like one of them has to happen. I think Julio Jones is obviously the most likely one. One of the two quarterbacks goes, then it'll just be insanity. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers, Julio will probably go to Seattle, and then that'll just lock in the fact that Russell Wilson isn't going anywhere. So then all eyes are on Green Bay because I think if Julio goes at this point, it's not a surprise. I mean, he wants to get out. Everyone's expecting it after June 1st, so it's got to be, like a ripple effect that like is just tears up the entire league and any kind of Aaron Rodgers thing. Now, does that happen after June 1st, or does that happen like into training camp when he decides I'm not showing up, I'm not doing anything? I think Green Bay, I think they're in denial, like, yeah, if they get rid of him, it's going to leave them with, some dead money on the cap or whatever, but he just wants to get, like, he's miserable. Like, he's just miserable. He wants to get out of there. I think and that would be great, right? Get him to the AFC, get him out of the NFC. I'm down for it. But if Aaron Rodgers, if the MVP gets traded in June, it would absolutely be the craziest June in the history of the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, Scott's right. One of those has to happen, but like, where do we want Julio Jones? Do we want him to go somewhere in the NFC and fail? Or do we just want him out of the NFC entirely? Like, Aaron Rodgers, that's obvious, but like, what do we want for Julio Jones? Because he's been in one of these players where like he's great for Atlanta, but I don't really hate him. Like he's never said anything interesting, So
right, I mean, he's right. He's not. He doesn't draw. He's not Roddy White. So he's already got that going for him, which is nice. And he's talented enough, obviously. So there's always a worry that he could that he could just go off in a game against the Saints, make a bunch of catches, and facilitate an Atlanta win.
Yeah.
And yet, all the prior history says no. Julio is a joke when he's playing the Saints. So why should we be worried? So yeah, I come down on it. Look, if he wants out, great. Bye. Go wherever you want. Preferably the AFC. If you go somewhere in the NFC, I'm not going to be that worried because he had Matt Ryan. And look, I know we all like to laugh at Matt Ryan and the Photoshop picture of him in the bra and everything. But Matt Ryan is a talented quarterback, and Julio Jones is a talented wide receiver. And the Saints have been able to render Julio mostly ineffective. So I think if he goes anywhere else, it would be similar results. I would still prefer him to go to the AFC.
If he goes to a contender in the NFC, or if he goes to like San Francisco, San Francisco, I'll be booing the shit out of him. But if he ends up somewhere like Arizona or somewhere that just doesn't really impact me, if he ends up on any team I don't hate and doesn't really have any kind of edge over the Saints, then I'll root for him because then you can laugh at Atlanta, and that's all we really want at the end of the day. Like,
you know what
we want to do?
We
want to mock. We want to mock Atlanta. We want to drink their tears, and there's a sense of like, if you ask a diehard Atlanta fan, there was a catch that he made in the Super Bowl against New England that was ridiculous and really should have wrapped up that Super Bowl for them. But of course, 28-3 happened. Last thing on Julio Jones, Scott, is everything I read on like PFT and Twitter is that Atlanta keeps saying, we got a first round pick offer for him. We got a first round pick offer, so you better bring something strong to the table. I feel like that's a lie. I think that's Terry Fontenot full of shit. Like, I don't think Atlanta got offered a first round pick for him, and I'll be stunned if they get a first round pick for Julio Jones.
Yeah, same, man. Like you throw it out there. The more you hear it from various insiders, the more it reeks of bullshit. But even though they can't really do it till post June 1st, I mean, we saw the Stafford Goff trade happen. Like, it didn't happen, but the agreement was reported on. Like, the playoffs were still going on. Like, it was a long way away before it could happen. So if they had a first, they could have agreed on it already. Like, it's not like we wouldn't be hearing Atlanta has a deal in place for a first from Seattle or whatever. So yeah, I think they're just trying to drum up the price. If they get a first rounder for a guy that has amazing stats, but is older, is more injury prone, and wants to get the hell out of there, and everyone knows that, Atlanta's trying to deal him, they get a first round. And like, who would do that? Houston? Well, they don't have a first rounder. So like, who's dumb enough to give up a first rounder for him? I think it's just the Falcons leaking that out there in hopes of trying to drum up the price. But at the end of the day, I just don't see them getting a first.
So we don't hate Julio Jones as much as we hated Roddy White. I would venture to say, Kevin, Saints fans don't even hate Julio as much as we hate Andrus Peat. Poor Andrus Peat decided to get on Twitter and tweet about PFF. They tweeted out the top 30. He tweeted out not a top guard, and it wasn't him saying he wasn't a top 3 guard. They didn't have Andrus Peat in their top 32, and Saints Twitter proceeded to drag him like he was a dead body through the town square on Game of Thrones, Kevin. So it got me to thinking, where does Andrus Peat rank in most hated Saints player by Saints fans? Like, he's up there. Like, Saints fans hate that dude.
I mean, this only just seems like the last season in particular that's come about. Like, let it linger. I don't know, man. Let it linger a little bit, another year or so. I don't know. I'm not ready to put him. I'm not ready to put him on the Mount Rushmore.
It's a hard match. It's a hard match, though, Scott. I was trying to think of we've hated Saints fans. We've hated players: Jason David, Brandon Browner, Adrian Peterson for Kevin. But all the players,
Jonathan Sullivan,
all of the players we mentioned, right? They all were terrible. Andrus Peat is not terrible. So I have a hard time finding a player like him that Saints fans have such vitriol for. I was trying to think maybe Fred Thomas, but at the end, he struggled.
That's the guy that comes to my mind. Like, he had some good years, but by nature of that position, I think when you're a corner, like, you have a couple of bad games and you're just done for some fans. And in 2006, he had some bad days, and he had some bad days in the postseason. And so they forget that in the Jim Haslett era, like, he wasn't a bad player. Like, Pete's a guy that's been to Pro Bowls. Like, coaches like him. I think he got off on the wrong foot, right? His first camp, he's out of shape. Then he's injury prone. He's like it's like when you drop your iPhone and it doesn't have a case on it. You like freak out anytime it falls. Like, anytime Pete hits the ground, you're like, is he done for the year, or is he gonna pop back up? Do you have to send him to IR? Do you have to send him to the repair shop? But the like, in terms of how Saints fans view this guy, I think you're right, Ralph. It's like he's polarizing in some aspects in that he doesn't really have too many defenders. Like, I guess me just pointing out, like, like, it's been said by a lot of people, right? Like, his mistakes are just magnified. And then he's injury prone. He came into his first camp out of shape. They wanted him to be a tackle, but then he had to be a guard because he couldn't play tackle. And then Sean Payton calls him out publicly. So there are all these sort of skins on the wall for these fans that, like, can't stand him, that anytime he does something good or there's something nice written about him, they're like, yeah, we'll just check the wall. Like, it doesn't matter. Who cares if he did something good? I mean, he's got
really Drew injured.
Yeah, I mean, but he's a powerful guy. He goes up against 3 technique D tackles, like, a lot, and he pushes him around a lot. Like, the Saints have a good run game. He has something to do with that, but nobody wants to hear that. It's like Andrus Peat, like that. I don't know who took that photo of him running in practice, like, and Raising Cane's is in the background, but that one goes in, like, the Saints Twitter hatred of a player Hall of Fame. That photo, I don't think it's fair. I think people are a little unfair to Pete, but It's weird, man. It's like you're not going to convince somebody. He's been to Pro Bowls. He could be a first team AP All Pro, and I guarantee you, most of the Saints Twitter would be like, "Nah, he sucks."
Yeah, I mean, do Saints fans hate Pete more than they hated Shanley? I feel like Saints fans really dislike Shanley, especially at the end.
I would say yes, because I've noticed a higher level of vitriol toward Pete. I think with Shanley, it came across as, guys at this is the end of the line. It's okay. We can move on. It's okay. Let's just go. With Pete, it's like there's still tread on the tire. We just think this guy's not good. Reasons X, Y, Z.
Wait, Thomas has a video playing. He's got that's the happiest Jason David probably ever looked in his Saints career. He's just smiling end to end. He's glowing.
Was that after the 3-interception game?
Zach Streif was a player, Saints fans. They pretend like they love him now because he was the radio guy and he's a coach. Dude, Saints fans, they had a strong hate of Mr. Zach Streif. Scott.
What is it about like O linemen and cornerbacks?
Because their fuck ups are so glowing, and a lot of times their screw ups cost you games. A tackle gets beat, a corner gets beat, and it just sticks with you forever. The Scott Shanley getting beat in San Francisco is sort of a aberration, right? I think corner is just the most. Every fan of every team, Kevin, I think they have a corner that they were just like, that dude was horrible. I hate him. Like every team, I bet you in the NFL, if you ask a diehard, they can pick out a corner, even if they're New England or they're whoever that wins all the time. They can pick out a corner that they just hate.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think you go to anybody that follows that and say, hey, is there somebody that you don't like? Is there somebody that you're not fond of? And you would get like, oh yeah, this guy can go lay down in traffic. You're in the corner area, in the O-line area. And to sort of piggyback off of what you were saying, it's not only the big plays, it's also the penalties.
Yeah.
You get O linemen doing, like the holding penalty or not encroachment. Why I'm brain farting right now. I apologize.
False start.
But thank you.
What was it? Who did it for the Saints? Jamal Brown. He false started all the time.
Yeah, Wayne Gandy.
Wayne Gandy. God damn.
See, there's like that. You're looking at players that are killing drives and taking away the fun or negating the fun. You get players in the secondary, okay, they can either give up a big play or they get pass interference calls that, it's like, okay, so this guy's getting too handsy or he's getting singled out by the refs for these penalties and it's costing us. This guy's killing us, yada, yada, yada. That would easily explain that. I mean, it's a lot easier, I guess, to hide if you're on the D line or if you're a linebacker in that sense.
Yeah, like we'll get on to like a wide receiver if they don't catch passes, but we're never like, God, that wide receiver, his blocking was fucking terrible. Or
right.
God, he had that motion penalty. Scott. But the last thing with Pete, I guess, is I don't know, Scott, because Saints fans blame him for Drew Brees' injuries. I don't know if Saints fans are ever gonna like come around on him and have like a war. I was trying to think too of like, is there a play like Devery Henderson? Early in his Saints career, Saints fans hated him because he didn't play. He dropped the ball all the time. Like Devery Henderson, his first 2 years, he was a disaster. And by the
Stonehands.
end of his career, he was kind of beloved. I just don't see that happening for Andrus Peat. Like that, it's not gonna come full circle for him. Like he's gonna end, and the Saints fans are gonna be like, good, glad, don't let the door hit you on the ass on the way out. Like I don't see a redemption story for Andrus Peat, and it's sort of unfair.
No, it is. Like I said, he could be a first team APL pro, and there's not going to be that like warm hug. Let's kiss and make up. And he's graded on a curve, right? Because he was a first round pick, and he got a big contract. Like Streif was never disliked as much as Pete was, but there was, they'd call him Zach Ole Streif. Like there were some fans that couldn't stand him, and then they kind of kissed and made up. And part of it was Zach had a good personality. Part of it was he never got as big a contract. Part of it was he was a 7th round pick. Part of it was that, he would interact and he was cool. And later in his career, he actually had one of his better seasons. Like Armstead plays through injuries a lot, but he doesn't play bad. Pete plays through injuries and his play suffers, but no one will point out, yeah, but he's playing hurt. Like there's
like
nothing.
Every Pete. That's my theory. Every Pete GIF on Twitter where he's terrible, he's usually got some sort of injury. But Kevin, people in the YouTube chat they're tired of the Saints talk. They want Kevin romance love life update. So I'm playing the ER theme. Give us the 30-second Kevin Held love life update.
Okay. Hadn't seen each other for 2 weeks until last Friday. So went out together Friday, hung out Saturday morning and afternoon before I had to come into work. And like Friday night felt like the first normal, like it was the first, and I told her this. I said, this is the first time I think I felt normal since maybe the beginning of 2020. Just because
like a normal like dinner out movie.
Yeah. It was just a like we went out to this place that was like a nice like chill bar that is like my favorite place in St. Louis, and I just felt happy and content, and I just felt normal. I just felt like it was just a regular. Just everything about it was regular. I can't.
Is she gonna go to your wrestling? When are you gonna get back in the wrestling?
The next wrestling event that I'm doing is July 9th. She knows about this. She has inquired about going. Yeah. So she definitely wants to go. So we'll see how that works out.
He's more embarrassed about the podcast, Scott, than he is about the wrestling.
Well, I mean, has she seen you in the tights yet?
She's seen photos of me in the tights, so she knows what that looks like. I mean, well, Scott, she's seen me in less than the tights. I mean,
she's seen you in the birthday suit. I just want to say that I put on Twitter an article about the one billionaire in Louisiana, happens to be a single woman. She owns the Saints and Pelicans, and I was like, guys obviously got some ways. He got the doctor. Would he be interested in Gail Benson? And Kevin said, no. Very happy with the doctor. So just to point that out, rather than make a move where he could possibly own the Saints, he's like, I'm good. I'm content.
Can we
No, I'm happy. I am very much happy, very much in love with the doctor. I'm extremely lucky. I am extremely lucky. I am extremely sappy. She knows this. I tell her that every so often when I say something like that. And I'm like, look, I'm sorry if that's like too hokey or whatever. And she's like, no, that's fine. That's adorable. I'm like, all right. 40-year-old me is silly when it comes to that kind of shit. So whatever.
Here's the thing. I just want to say this about Gail Benson. She took on the entire Benson family when they were like, Tom Benson is senile. We want the team from him. We're going to fight over it. Scott, she got everything. She got the Pelicans. She got the Saints. She got the horses. The family, I don't know what they got. They didn't get that. I feel like Gail should give a TED Talk. Like, she is amazing. And I'm happy she's the owner. I think was the best case scenario of all the family chaos. And God forbid somebody else would have got in the Benson family, especially the granddaughter. Jesus. But I think that's like an underrated thing of Gail. Like, she went to war with the Benson and she got it all of it.
Yeah, she'll never give the TED Talk. She's not giving away her secrets. Like, she's got a way. I don't know, man. She's probably cutthroat. I would not. That's not somebody you'd want to cross. I'm not saying anything bad about Gail. Gail's a wonderful woman. I'm scared of her a little bit, to be honest.
Yeah, I would be. I mean, she got the kingdom, man. She got the keys to the kingdom, all of it. You know.
So what happened? Here's the thing, though. Like, what happens? I mean, she's still a younger woman, but like, what comes after Gail?
I don't know. That like, to me, I try not to think about that because that to me can be frightening, Kevin. Maybe she can figure some kind of way out where they can put it in a trust or something because she's the only billionaire in Louisiana, and the Saints, if you sold them, they'd be like $2.5 billion. So like you're gonna have somebody outside of Louisiana, and say whatever you want about Gail. Yeah, she did the things with the Catholic Church trying to help him was a little bit kind of icky feeling. I do believe she has the best intentions of the Saints and the Pelicans. She's invested a ton in both. I believe she has the best intentions for those teams, and she wants them to win. She leaves Loomis and Peyton alone. Like, you get some jackwagon hedge fund billionaire owning the Saints in like 15 years. That to me could be terrifying because then it's a Daniel Snyder type or the guy from Carolina. You know.
Here's the thing. If she looks to sell the team, she could theoretically. I mean, I don't know how many 100 millionaires are in Louisiana, but you could get a consortium to put together an offer and buy the team and keep the team in the state. The worry comes after that. Because with there's always going to be somebody buying up shares and, here and there, you'll have like the majority owner and they'll freeze out the minority owners or agree to buy the minority stake and do whatever. I think of the Rams. The Rams owner, what was her name?
Georgia
Fontieri.
Wait, Frontier or Fontier?
Frontier.
But she sold it to
Kroenke. Kroenke, right?
Toupee guy, Kroenke and a few other people. And I think Kroenke was the majority owner, but then Kroenke was able to like buy out or acquire enough shares from other people, and then he ends up, ditching the city or whatever. That would be my worry instead of her just selling it to one person outright. I don't know. I feel like if she sells it to one person outright, that's I see that as less of a possibility.
I don't think that a new ownership group would move the Saints, but the Pelicans, that would be a worry too. Let's just hope Gail just sticks around for a while and, she's been in some.
She needs to live to be 100 and speaking of Gail, because Tom Benson marrying Gail was a good decision, but I want to talk about bad decisions that we've made personally and the Saints have made, because J.D. Roberts, former coach of the Saints, he passed away. Full disclosure, I didn't realize he was still alive. He was the coach when they drafted Archie Manning. But here's the thing that I want to tie it into making bad decisions. J.D. Roberts, he was the second coach of the Saints. The Saints fired Tom Fears, and J.D. Roberts' first game as interim coach of the Saints was when Tom Dempsey kicked the 63-yard field goal. And John Meekum, the owner of the Saints, he was so excited that they set this NFL record and beat the Lions. He made J.D. Roberts the permanent coach and gave him a 2-year contract like right after the game. And Kevin, that is the definition of a bad decision you make under emotional high or stress, and you regret it immediately. Like J.D. Roberts was fucking terrible. Like, and when I say terrible, like if you ranked Saints bad coaches, J.D. Roberts, he would be up there most assuredly. So I got to thinking, Scott, like, what is a bad decision you made based on emotion that, like, maybe it felt good in the moment, but then, like, 5 minutes later, you're like, that's a terrible decision.
Yeah, I'm somebody. I wish I had like something better. I mean, like, I usually think things through, but it all basically comes back to sports. Like, you get a guy on your fantasy team that goes off one season, probably has no business doing it again. And you feel like connected to that individual. And then the next year you draft him way too high, or you draft him again, or you do whatever you can to get him, knowing like that's really bad. I've made bad emotional decisions. Like when it comes to eating sometimes, like
Yeah.
get emotional, you get sad, and you just go get, like a 20 piece or something. They used to have a Popeyes buffet here in Lafayette. That thing knocked me out cold a couple of times, but I don't know. Most of the decisions I think of them for a while. Like I got kicked out of my high school graduation for just like being goofy and like falling on purpose. But like I thought it through and like I don't really regret it. It was probably a good decision. I mean, it made for a good story. So I don't know, man. I feel like you guys probably got me smoked on this.
J.D. Roberts, he has the worst winning percentage of any Saints coach that coached more than 16 games. His winning percentage was .243. He was 7-25-3 from 1970 to 72.
Hell yeah.
So I mean, like,
But that Dempsey kick, man, that Dempsey kick.
I mean, the Saints were a dumpster fire anyway in the 70s, so maybe it wouldn't have mattered. But like, making him the permanent head coach was the worst decision they possibly could have made. Not that the Dempsey kick was a bad thing, because let's be honest, all through my childhood, the Dempsey highlight was the only thing that the Saints had of any consequence, really. But my bad decision is pretty good. Okay, so when I first moved to Texas, and I was living in my sister, her house. They had moved to Korea to take a job, her husband. And so I was living in their house in Katy. And you know those people that sell shit door to door? And they sell things and like this. Well, they had a girl come to the door, and she was selling restaurant gift cards. And she was cute, and at the time I was single, so I was like, maybe if I buy the restaurant gift card, I could get her number, blah, blah, blah.
You need to shoot your dick off.
So I bought $100 of restaurant gift cards.
Why?
And
Why?
Damn, son.
After I did it, I knew it was a bad decision. And the restaurants didn't even take the cards later to add insult to injury. So
you got scammed.
That's my bad emotional decision.
So you got scammed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
that's it. I got scammed.
Yeah, I mean, that was a scam. I mean, you got sold something that didn't work. It was a scam.
Well, what did she do to like set off this dopamine? Like, what did she do? Dempson's 63-yard field goal to make you buy those worthless. Basically, you spent $100.
She just had to exist. She just had to exist.
That's it, Thomas. I was single and desperate. She just had to exist. She had to wink a couple times. She was dressed nice. She smelled nice. I don't know, Scott. Like I was alone. I was in Houston. I didn't have any friends.
Still
I was
dressing
desperate.
yourself at the time.
Yeah, like I will say that she made it sound like I had a shot. So That's why I did the gift cards. And the gift card, the gift cards
She was
didn't
seductive.
even work. So I got.
What were
she was
they
a-
to? All right, so they didn't work, but like, what restaurants are we talking about?
They were like to like a Thai kitchen and like a barbecue place. The barbecue place guy, I gave him the card and he just laughed.
That's the worst
We don't
joke I've
take
ever
these.
heard.
That's what
He's
he
like,
said.
we don't take these. I'm like, you shouldn't have bought them. I'm like, and that was the second time, like this, like that's the time I knew I got because the first restaurant you go to, you're like, well, maybe they're confused, their system doesn't work, and blah 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 blah. When you go to the second restaurant and it doesn't work, you know you got, and
Yeah.
so that's my bad emotional decision. You know, is me getting scammed out of $100 for fake restaurant gift cards, Scott? Is that a worse decision than the Saints hiring J.D. Roberts?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, you know, you got like that. She made you feel something, right? It was you basically spent $100 to feel good about yourself for like 10 minutes. You know, I mean, they signed J.D. Roberts and just bought themselves more misery for a couple of years. At least you got something like good out of it, you know.
I could have gone to a strip club. And felt
Ralph,
a lot
did you
better.
tell your wife about it?
No, I mean, well, probably now. She's probably listening now. I mean,
Hey,
she knows I'm
Tomas,
fucking-
check the timestamp on this.
I'm sending this to her.
My wife knows who I am. She knows I'm an idiot.
I think I remember one time I got mad because my mom is like always big on like April Fool's jokes but like she tells them wrong. Like she like says like good things like, oh, your sister got this big like part in this film, isn't that great? I'm like, yeah. She's like, April Fools, ha ha ha. It makes no sense. It's really dumb. But like I think when I was in high school, I just got mad when she got me once. So you know, like the next day or like later that night, I like sat my parents down and told them like, you know, we're drug testing at school now. I just don't want you guys to find out from someone else. I just want to let you know, like, I'm going to test positive for like a lot of different drugs. You know, it's really bad. And they both just had this like exhale of like just extreme, like just stress and worry. And then my mom goes, fools. And I was like, yeah, yes. And they were like, that is not funny. Like, what the hell? What's wrong with you? Like, why would you do that to us? So that was one where I got emotional because I was mad that they got me. And I probably could have gone a different route with the April Fool's joke. You know, probably could have just loosened up the salt or something. But instead, I had them worried that I needed to go to rehab for a little while.
No.
They
That's
have
brilliant.
April-
That's brilliant.
Thank you. Okay, I'll take it.
Thomas, do they
brilliant.
have April Fools in Poland?
Yeah, we do.
What's the follow-up to that, Ralph?
So Thomas, we're gonna get straight to we're gonna go straight to the questions because I want to
Let's
save
go.
I want to save that the topic we were gonna talk about. I want to save that till next week. But before we get to questions, I want to Scott. I did a horrible job of plugging you. Tell the people you're on 1420 in Lafayette. Tell the people how they can listen to you either live or streaming on the air. You do a fantastic show in Lafayette. Tell the people how they can listen.
Thanks, Ralph. Just follow me on Twitter at Scott_1420. A lot of links there. Great Scott Show podcast. A lot of the interviews get posted up there. That's Scott with an acronym S.C.O.T.T. And subscribe, listen. Usually in the summertime, I interview lots of former Saints players and get a lot of good stories out of them. So there'll be a lot of that content coming up in the next few months, and talk to some of the guys from this here podcast from time to time. It always turns. There's been a few times I have to like bleep Ralph because he forgets that he's on the radio and not a podcast. And be like, Scott, I just got to say that was fucking crazy. I'm like, no, you can't do that. So
Yeah, Scott
never know
Scott
if
knows
you're
better than to put me on live.
yeah. It's like too early in the morning too for Ralph. So I'm like, let's record ahead just so I can bleep him out once or
Bleep
twice.
out.
Dude, there was one time. All right, quick story. One time I was interviewing Luke Lawton, who he played in the NFL. He won a Super Bowl with the Colts. He's from here, and I guess he curses a lot. So he came on once, just trying to get more stories out of him. He played with like Peyton Manning and stuff, and like I think he was a little nervous. So the next time I brought him in, I was just like, how do I make him comfortable beforehand? I'm like, look, you know what, Luke, just don't think of it as an interview. Just think of it as like you and I were just chilling, we're just talking, just just don't curse, right? But because it's live, but just remember we're just talking football, man, And he's like, okay, cool, like it sounds good. So I asked him, like, it's the beginning of training camp. I'm like, man, take me back to your first training camp. You're undrafted. Like, what's going through your mind? Bursting out of his mouth. Well, I went to my locker and I'm like, there's not a SDM helmet or a McNeese helmet. It's like a Buffalo Bills helmet. I'm like, holy shit, I fucking made it, man. Like, first thing out of his mouth. So that interview got cut off really short. But anyway, yeah. So not as much cursing as you would hear on this or Drunk Saints history or something, but check it out, give me a follow, and I'll shut up. And
my favorite Drunk Saints histories is when Scott is working late and he's like, "Hey Ralph, I'm working late. You want to do a drunk history?" And we just
Right.
fire it up and do it. Those are the best kind. And also Thomas, we started the voting for the Drew Brees worst decision bracket. And we're going to start that next week and vote in the polls because you can be a tiebreaker. But show the people these. Thomas is working his ass off on these graphics. This graphic here is tremendous. But Thomas not only does, he has an entire bracket. He has animations for each matchup with jokes, with explosions and all this. Like, look at this graphic. It's practically professional. Kevin, look at it. Yahoo Finance versus Hanging with Bear Grylls or Grills. I don't know how you say the name.
Yeah, Bear Grylls.
Ralph can't say anyone's name right.
I mean, we got everything for this bracket. It's going to be amazing. People were Scott, when we posted the full bracket, people were infuriated about the seating. They were mad that we left off Drew Brees. They were mad we left off a couple of things, but I felt like overall, you can argue with the seedings. I don't feel like we left anything out that was like a horrifically bad Drew decision.
I think you guys nailed it. I mean, because some were bringing up like kneeling or whatever. That's all tied into Yahoo Finance. So that's a 1 seed. Focus on the family. That was a bad look, and then he said he didn't know and stuff. Like, I get why that wouldn't make the cut. When I saw the bracket, I was looking. I'm like, all right, what can I want to quote tweet and say this is woefully underseeded or something? But I couldn't. I was like, this is, chef's kiss, man. This is like it. And I laughed. Like, I laughed a lot when I saw it. This thing has been a long time coming. I'm glad you guys put it together.
Kevin, I gotta say, the Kevin Hauser movie credits, that's a sneaky one.
Yeah.
Go far.
Initially, when you showed me the bracket, I was saying that I thought the Jimmy John's thing was overrated. Like I didn't think that, like Jimmy John's, like he owns a successful franchise. Like, it's not, like, I've not read any stories about them losing money. I have not read any stories about health code violations or that he's a bad boss, doesn't pay people on time. Anything. I've seen nothing about that. And I think it was Juge. It was Juge or somebody else? And I'm sorry if it was somebody else, and I can't remember your Twitter handle. I apologize. But I was told it's not so much that it's not Jimmy John's itself. It's that Drew Brees decided to open a chain sandwich restaurant in the land of the po' boy and thought that would be okay.
I mean,
I was like, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I get why it's in the bracket. I get why it would be seated that high.
Maybe we burned down our Jimmy John's sponsorship opportunities, but like in the
were we getting any
pantheon of sandwich rankings, like Jimmy John's is like the bottom. Like,
you would take Quiznos over them,
dude. Quiznos, at least they toast the sandwich. I used to wreck a honey bourbon when I worked at WWL at Quiznos. That was like my lunch and dinner when I would work at.
Ralph, you'd wreck a honey bourbon regardless.
Yeah, well, this is a honey
Wrecking
bourbon,
one right now.
honey bourbon chicken.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, honey bourbon chicken.
There's a
Rip.
pattern with you.
Hashtag #RIP Quiznos. But, I mean, so anyway, the bracket is tremendous, and we're going to start having fun. And remember to vote on Twitter, because it can be a tiebreak. If when we're all four here, if it's 2-2, the Twitter poll will be the tiebreak. So, Thomas, fire up the music. We got to get to questions. So, I don't hear it. I'll just start dancing.
No, I hear it.
Love this song.
Finger guns or finger gun?
Wait, Ralph, what do you do this one or is that Juge?
That's Juge. Juge does the handshake. I do the finger gun. So, Thomas, fire out the first question.
Okay, we start off with the question from Dick Anuhil, aka Badrich, aka Matt. Prediction: does Jameis Winston throw over, under, or exactly 14 interceptions? And if he throws over, still give him an extension?
Scott, what's the Mendoza line for, like, the Jameis extension? Like, where is it where it's, like, a very difficult call for you? Where, like, his stat line, the Saints record, like, where does it become... We know what if it becomes if it's easy. We know if it's easy to sign him or easy to let him walk. Where's the spot for you where you're like, I don't know?
So it's not just interceptions, right? Because I think he's going over in regards to the question. I'm thinking like probably 15, 16, but total turnovers. So if he's fumbling it like, you know, in hilarious fashion, like it wouldn't be as funny now that he's with the Saints, but like the typical Jameis, like clumsy fumble, and he's throwing tons of picks, but he's throwing for 4,800 yards and, you know, 30 plus touchdowns. If the turnovers are like above 20, you can't do it. You know, if he throws 15 picks but only has like 2 fumbles, and I get that that's a lot, but I mean it's Jameis. You know, you're still cutting back quite a bit if that's the number. And he's throwing for over 30 touchdowns, and the deep ball is there, and you know the offense is still ranked pretty highly. I think they do it. You know, like if they get to 10-7, and he has a stat line of 29 touchdowns and 15 picks and 4 fumbles and 3,600 yards, they're giving him the extension. But you start getting the turnovers up in like the 20s, you just can't win consistently with that, because the whole idea with Jameis is always about the turnovers, right? And if he cuts back a little bit, cool, maybe they'll win some games. But if he doesn't cut back, like if he doesn't cut it in half, shit. I mean, he leads the NFL in turnovers since 2015. Since 2014, even though he didn't play in 2014, he didn't even really play.
I've been told by Jameis 1 of 1, no turnover ever is Jameis's fault.
Okay, but that guy, I gotta read that book, man. I gotta read that book.
That is Eddie. You idiotic.
Oh, by the way, it was Jim Mora's birthday this week, this past week, and I tweeted out the podcast that I made where I combined all the Jim Mora bracket every round. It's like 2 hours long, but it is freaking amazing. You should listen to it. It's one of the best things we've ever done. It's completely ridiculous. So Thomas,
What next?
Okay, so next question is kind of tied up to the last question from Christmas. It's super long. Oh, man. Are you all ready for an entire season of debate and criticism of Jameis turnovers, when opening up the offense will inevitably result in a more than the last few seasons, even if Drew were still the QB? How many interceptions will you consider too many?
Kevin, here's my question for you, because that's kind of the similar question we just had. My question to you is, how good does Jameis have to be to start the year before he can have a clunker Jameis type game where we cut him some slack? Like, Like, how, you know what I'm saying? Like, how good does the Saints have to start before he goes and throws he has the 3 turnover, 3 fumble game and they get their ass kicked wherever? Like, how good does he have to be before that? Where we're like, it's okay, Jameis, it's just one bad game. Like, how good does he have to be to where we excuse a bad turnover game?
Winning can cover a lot of things. So let's say if the Saints are 4-0, 4-1, and if Jameis doesn't have to be hitting 300 yards every game during that stretch, but if he's going a couple touchdowns, making some, decent runs for first down, and maybe throws, if he even averages like 2-1, 2 TDs and a pick every single one of those games, and the Saints are winning, and they have a winning, 4-0, 4-1, if they get blown out in that next game and Jameis just shits the bed, I think you'll get a small amount of people that'll say, we knew it, but I don't think it'll grow. The team winning can mask a lot of that. Now, if the team is winning in spite of Jameis, and, if he's throwing just 1 touchdown and fumbling, 1 touchdown making boneheaded throws or boneheaded decisions, or taking, the delay of game, or having to call timeouts because he can't get the play off in time, all that kind of shit, then that's a problem, and more people will pile on. But I think minimum a good run of 4 games, and he gets a pass.
Scott, how good does Jameis have to be the first month of the year to earn his own mini fathead on my wall of excellence?
He's got to be as good as Jameis 1 of 1 thinks he is. Like, he's got to be. I mean, to earn a spot up there. Here's the thing about Jameis. Like, he's fun. Like, it's fun. Like, there were times. And look, nothing was more fun than the Peyton Breeze era, so don't get me wrong. But like, like the debate would be in a Breeze game, you'd see memes and they might be political or they'd be about arm strength. And then after like a while, it's like, okay, whatever. Like Jameis, I feel like all the arguing or believing or not believing, like there's an element of fun to it. And like Kevin said, if they're winning, like I feel like you, Ralph, are just going to use any excuse you can to prop him up. They start 4-0. Like he'll have like 3 spots behind you. He'll have his own section on your wall.
Scott, 4-0. All they need to do is beat Green Bay, and I will stop at the gift store on my way out of the dome and buy a Winston jersey. 4-0. Get the fuck out of here. He looks good against Green Bay. I'm wearing a jersey Tuesday. I'll wear a jersey Monday night after week 1.
What if it's what if it's not even Aaron Rodgers as
doesn't matter. That's the best part, Kevin. It doesn't even matter. It won't even matter.
What next?
Next question. Lil Dice 504 asks, who has Michael Thomas been working out with this offseason? Taysom or Jameis?
Ooh, that's a good question. I didn't think of that. Yeah. I haven't seen him anywhere. He's kind of doing his own thing. If Michael Thomas, whoever he would pick, like that would be like the ultimate presidential endorsement, right, Kevin? Like if Michael Thomas, like if he was like whoever he chose to work out with, like it'd be like Oprah endorsing you for president, right? Like it'd be like the dream endorsement.
Yeah, but I don't even want to make a political metaphor or simile. I'm so
I don't know, like
past all that shit right now. But like, yes, that would be significant. That would be significant if there was video, like over-the-shoulder video of Michael Thomas doing 10 and outs, 12 and outs, and Jameis hitting him hitting him right in the chest with it. Like, that would be tremendous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be fun. It would be. I would love to see the workout video with him and Taysom, though, just to see what kind of wacky shit they might do together.
I think, like, Thomas, he had that surgery when the season ended, so he's probably not. The only thing I saw him post was like some video of him looking like really jacked up and like ripped. He's like flexing. But there's no, like, I haven't seen any videos of him like running routes yet or doing stuff. But all I know is when the Russell Wilson rumors were kind of hot for a minute around the Saints, Thomas made it very clear he would like Russell to be the quarterback in New Orleans. So I don't know that he's like rushing off to work out with Jameis right now.
What next?
Okay, next question from Balky. What's the order of most to least likely Saint to be on the team next year among Lattimore, Teron, Ramczyk, Marcus Williams, Davenport, Jenkins, and Jameis?
I would say least likely of that, like, Jenkins would be least because his contract is up and they didn't really restructure him, I don't think. So I would say Jenkins would be most least likely. I would say second least likely would be Jameis. That's my contract. Anybody disagree with me there? Like, I still think Jameis is like 50-50 at best to be on the roster.
I think after next season, I love the guy. I think Armstead's contract coupled with, like, he's going to need to have a relatively healthy season by his standards, or he just might be one of those guys that, it's kind of a very loving, farewell, sorry, we have to do this type of exit. But he's got to make it difficult for them by, playing most of the games this year and performing at a high level. I think I've always kind of been an Armstead stan. He's played through a lot of injuries. I get that he's missed some time, but man, he's
only 29.
Yeah,
Kevin,
doesn't
I
it,
was
doesn't
stunned.
it feel like he's like older though? Doesn't it? He feels like he's
It does
29,
feel
but
like
he's
he's
got the body of like a 36-year-old.
He does, Kevin. But we did the Locker Room show, which, by the way, everybody, you should join us every Wednesday. Download the Locker Room app. We do a live show every Wednesday, 9:00. We were talking about Armstead, and somebody in the chat room, I thought he was 32. Somebody's like, Ralph, once again, you were wrong. He's 29. I was stunned that Armstead is so young, Kevin. And I just look at this list. I think Armstead is very likely to be gone because offensive line in the NFL, Kevin, Saints fans don't realize it, but it is kind of fucking terrible everywhere else. And teams pay out the nose for tackles. And if Armstead is really, really good and healthy, he is going to get a ridiculous contract from somebody.
I would say out of that group, the most likely to stay next year would probably be Ramczyk.
Yeah.
Based off of what you said. So I would probably say him, Marcus Williams, then Davenport, then Lattimore, and then you can rank Jenkins, Jameis, and Armstead however you want.
I need Lattimore to get an extension just so Thomas can play the "Don't shoot your dick off" soundbite.
You're gonna shoot your dick off.
Yeah, like we need like that's almost in and of itself worth the Saints giving him 5 years, $110 million.
Mm-hmm.
So,
What next?
Okay, last question from Biloxi Blues. Should the Saints bring in another kicker to challenge Lutz? Can we count on Lutz to be above 85% on kicks this year?
I mean, I don't think they'll bring in a kicker during camp, but I will say, and either one of you can jump in here, Lutz struggled at the end of last year. He's on a shorter rope than most Saints fans believe. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I think he's like sneaky kind of candidate for like most pressure this year in terms of like you better perform. He gets off to a rough start, and just the margin of error is going to be slimmer this year, I think, for the team in this new transition. And there were a number of games where he got away with missing a crucial kick. He hasn't. It's not like he's had like Hartley had a lot of moments of, think 2010 and that loss to Atlanta, you missed a 29-yard field goal, whatever. He had a number of kicks where it was so obvious that it was so memorable because like it cost him the game. Lutz has had some crucial misses that the Saints have gone on to figure out how to win, so they haven't been highlighted as much. But
yeah,
I don't know, man. I don't know how much patience they're going to have if he gets off to a rough start, especially in a year where they need him to be as good as he's ever been. So I'm kind of with you. I could see in the season if he starts struggling. Peyton's not, it's not like he's against bringing in an extra kicker. Like he'll have 2 on the roster just to put pressure on another guy. He's done that before. So if he starts struggling, I can see him bring another guy in just to kind of up with Lutz's head a little bit, and then if Lutz keeps struggling, they could make a move there. But
I would bet Walt last year at the end of the year, and with the week of the playoff game, I think, to like try out, So
hang on, I have one stat. This past season, the 2020 season, was the first time Lutz ever missed a kick under 30 yards.
Wow. Yeah.
He was 5 for 6, 29 and under, but that's the first time he's ever missed 129 and under.
If they had lost to the Bears, we'd have crucified that guy. Like, he missed a critical kick against the Bears, but the Saints ended up winning, so we forget about it, like Scott said.
What were his PATs last year? I don't remember. Do you have that, Kevin?
Let's see. Extra points. Yeah, 57 of 58.
There you go. I think okay.
I felt like he was more shaky than that on extra points, but my memory fails me. So before we get out of here, I want to remind people that we are at 294 patrons, and if we get to 350 by the first week of the preseason, we'll take a pie and smash it in my face like I'm Soupy Sales on television in 1952. So become a patron, do it, sign up. You get the booze bundle. You get the podcast every single day. You get in the Discord where we're chatting, talking Saints. It's amazing. You should do it. And we need the support to keep paying Thomas so he can put this amazing show together. I'm just saying. So, guys, thanks for joining us as always. Thanks for everybody on the YouTube joining us. If you should find us on the YouTube. You should subscribe to our channel. You should find us wherever you get your podcast. If you don't give us 5 stars, don't give us any stars at all. Yes, Thomas, I know I forgot to do that at the beginning of the podcast because I'm a terrible host. I'm doing it at the end. Shut your pie hole.
Fuck that.
So
let's go.
So for Andrew and Dave, who are on their bougie vacations, wherever the fuck they are, for Kevin, for Scott Prather of 1420 and Lafayette, for pinch hitting late in the game, coming through in the clutch on last second notice. We appreciate you, Scott, coming through. Everybody, support him in Lafayette. Find him on Twitter and listen to his show on 1420 in Lafayette. For Kevin, I'm Ralph. Remember, kids, don't shoot your dick off. And until next week, the bar is closed.